All right, so this is a quick little mini lesson on how to count up your atoms. So what's going to happen is we are given a chemical formula. And so my chemical formula, for example, may be something that looks like this. Okay? Let's do this. We'll put a big 2 in front of this as well. So we have a couple things. We have this guy here. This is your coefficient. You have this guy here who is your subscript. And this guy here doesn't have a subscript. So you can see that we're going to pretend that this is 1, even though it doesn't have a 1 there. You're going to count that as 1. So the first thing we want to look about, what does this actually mean? This right here is telling me my number of molecules. Okay, that's going to tell me my molecules. So I have 2 molecules of sodium. Right, this is sodium sulfide, and we'll get to the naming of that in just a minute. So I have 2 molecules. My molecules, each molecule is basically telling me I have 2 sodium atoms. There's 2 sodium atoms bonded to a sulfur atom. Now whether it bonds like that or in a straight line or in a whatever, it doesn't matter right now to us. But what you have to know is that these 3 atoms are bonded together. And if I have 2 molecules, this here is 1 molecule. I have a whole nother molecule of that. I have another one. I got another sodium, 2 sodiums, and a sulfur. So this is giving me, this is 1 molecule. This is 2 molecules. Or the second molecule. So when I draw this out, I don't have to draw this out every time and count up how I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 atoms. Each one of those is an atom of sodium, and I have 2 atoms of sulfur. So this is going to give me a total of 6 atoms that I have. Okay? So that's just getting a count, and that's all we're doing in this first lesson. So there is a way that I can do this without having to draw all this out. So what I can look at here is if I have 2 Na2S, because that 1 is assumed right there, the 2 goes to this one and it goes to that one. So 2 times 2 is 4. It's 4 sodiums, and 2 times, that's really a 1. 2 times 1 is 2 sulfurs. So I can come up with 6 atoms total right there. Now, if I have something in parentheses, and you can see these the other videos go into a little bit more detail than I'm going into, but let's try another one real quick, but without parentheses before we move on. Let's say I've got 2 MgS. That's what I'm looking at. So we've got magnesium and sulfur there, and I want to know how many atoms and what I have here. So my 2 elements that I have are magnesium, right? I've got magnesium, and I have sulfur. So I want to know how many atoms of each one. Well, magnesium, this is a 1, and this is a 1 outside of there. So 2 times Mg means I have 2 magnesiums. 2 goes to the S, so I have 2 sulfurs. So I actually have 4 atoms total. Okay, and that's how I count those up. If I were to draw this out, what it would look like, I have 2 molecules, right? I have 2 molecules, magnesium and a sulfur, and another molecule of a magnesium and a sulfur bonded together. So that's what it would look like. Now let's go back and let's talk about ratios. Okay, let's look at our first one that we had up there that we did. If I have 2 Na2S, I'm asking for a ratio of how it's bonded. A ratio is how many sodiums that I have every time it bonds to how many sulfurs. Every time, it's like a recipe. So this means I have 2 molecules. This doesn't have anything to do with the ratio. Your ratio comes from this number and this number. This is a 2-to-1 ratio because every time I add a molecule, I'm adding a 2-to-1 ratio of sodium to sulfur. It's 2 sodiums to 1 sulfur every single time. 2 sodiums to 1 sulfur. Let's look at our magnesium sulfide. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. because I always have one magnesium bonded to one sulfur. Okay? Now, let's look and apply that. Let's do that one more time and kind of put those steps together. Let's look at this. Let's look at an iron chloride. So let's look at, let's say we've got 3 FeCl2. Okay? So this means I've got iron and I've got chlorine. So in this case, this is really a 1 here. If you want to write that in, you can. It's not going to be there, but if you want to write it in, you can. 3 times 1 is going to mean I have 3 irons. Now, every time I add a molecule, because I have 3 molecules of iron chloride, this also goes to my chlorine. So I've got 3 times 2, which is going to give me 6. So I have a total of 9 atoms. Now, how many molecules do I have? I have 3. Remember, I have 3 molecules of my iron chloride. I have 3 atoms of iron. I have 6 atoms of chlorine. I have 9 atoms total. So what this starts to look like is an Fe, 1 iron, bonded to 2 chlorine. That's what one molecule would look like. Okay, one molecule. Another molecule, 1 iron, bonded to 2 chlorine. Again, now if I'm going to add, because I have 3 molecules, 1 iron, bonded to 2 chlorines. So if I count these up, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3 irons, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chlorine. And my ratio every time for each one of these is I have a 1 to 2, 1 bonded to 2, 1 bonded to 2. So my ratio in this case is a 1 to 2 ratio. So I hope this with your other videos are helpful to you to understand. If not, please come see me. Please raise your hand. Call me over to your desk. We'll do some more. And my next little video I'm going to put on here is going to show you about the parentheses. Okay? Now, I'm going to just keep going actually with things in parentheses. So what we're going to be looking at here is if I have something like Mg3PO42. Okay? You notice I have something in parentheses here. So let's think about what this really means. Let's actually put, let's say I have 2 of these. I have 2 molecules. So I have 2 molecules of this magnesium phosphate here. So really one molecule is going to look like this. I have 3 magnesiums, right? 3 magnesiums. And then a phosphate. I have 2 of those. So a PO4. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got a phosphorus and 4 oxygens, right? And I have 2 of those. Phosphorus and 4 oxygens. That is one molecule. And I actually have 2 of those. So another one, Mg3, bonded to PO4, P O1, O2, O3, O4, P, O1, O2, O3, O4. And that makes 2 molecules. So I can count all these out and I can say, okay, this, how many atoms? I have 6 magnesium atoms. I have 4 phosphorus atoms. And I have 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, so that's 16 oxygen atoms. And so I have a total here of 26 atoms. Okay? Now, I can do this mathematically without having to draw all this. This 2 goes to the magnesium, the 2 goes to the phosphorus, and the 2 goes to the oxygen. This 3 only stays with this magnesium. 2 goes to the phosphorus, 2 goes to the oxygen. So, 2 times 3 in this case is 6. This is really applied here. So really this is saying 2 here. So 2 times 2 is 4 phosphorus. All right, so When we do this, we are looking at, we had 4 phosphorus. So in this case, the 2 goes to this 4. So 2 times 4 is 8, and the big 2, 8 times 2 is 16 oxygen. So you notice that we come up with the same information. If you get stuck and you have to draw them out, please draw them out. It doesn't take that much to draw them out, but you don't have to. The more you do this step, then you'll be able to skip that step once you're able to visualize what they look like and what these things mean. Then you'll always be able to figure out the answer. So again, if you need me, let me know. I'm coming around, stop me, and I'll talk to you then.